some cool stuff to talk about. So I brought Linda in because she's an expert on my topic.
Kind of.
More of an expert than
Potty
me.
time.
So you guys have your Bibles, I hope. So I have been thinking a lot about the race, running the race. I've been thinking about it. It keeps running through my mind. See what I did there?
No. What did you do?
Running the race, running through my mind.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've been asked, what is running the race? Like, people talk about running the race, like, what race? Right?
Right.
I mean, like, it's kind of a Christianese phrase, right? Running the race. And if you don't know what that is, and it's like, I don't get it. Like, I don't run races. What race? Where's the start and finish line? Right? And who decides? Who decides who the start and, like, where the start and finish line is and what race? Well, Paul uses the example of Olympics a lot in the New Testament. Did you guys know that? He talks about Olympics and running and training athletes quite a bit, actually, in the Word. The games, of course, were really popular in Paul's time. They had them in Rome, in Corinth, and Athens. These games that turned out to be a caveat to murder Christians, but that was later on down the line. These games, they did kind of weird things at the games, but it started out as a foot race and wrestling and kind of like what you would think of Olympics, and they were pretty popular in Paul's time. So he's drawing on something that the populace would understand, these foot races. And so I'm going to play this video for you guys, kind of a compilation of all of Paul's verses about running. So let's listen to that.
Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. For by it the people of old received their commendation. For by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing, it is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest, after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith.
So running, right? Did you hear all those verses about running fast, perseverance, like fighting the good fight, getting the crown? Paul uses these over and over and over for running the race. So what does it mean that we're running the race? What does that mean? If somebody asked you that, Linda, what does that mean? It's such a Christian phrase that we use. We have lots of phrases actually that we use that we might not actually be like, wait a minute, what does that mean? So let's give it a shot. How would we explain it?
You know, and I think of it, and I think of when I think of running the race as a Christian, I think of it as a trials, I guess, persevering through trials, and I think in an Old Testament kind of way, you used to God blessed people that were good. But we don't have that promise. We're told we'll have trials and tribulations, and we're to expect them. And for me, that running that race is just persevering through just the life you've been given to lead.
Right, yes. Exactly. So running the race is just another way of saying that you are following after Christ, or your walk with Christ, or your journey with Christ, right? From the word go, your starting line is when you accepted Jesus Christ. And what Paul is talking about is that you don't really have a choice to run. If you accept Christ, you are a runner.
You're in the race.
Like, you don't have a choice to be a soldier either. If you're a believer, you are in the army of God, you know? So like, it's something that you sign up for, but then we don't know that we've signed up. You know, so today we're just going to talk about the race a little bit, you know, as runners, persevering, and what the word has to say about that. So first of all, I have these pictures from ancient times. This is Greece. I know it's small for you guys, maybe, but this is the stadium, the ancient stadium in Greece, and this would be like the entrance tunnel. So the runners would all file through here, and they would have their opening ceremonies and, you know, all that jazz, and the crowds would be like, you know, crowds and stuff. So that is that one. Hold on, I need my keyboard. It's way far away. Pause. This is called bloopers, Linda. It happens every week. Nothing ever goes as planned. So this is the entrance, and then this is now kind of overgrown, but this is that flat running racetrack way back. You know, the games, they started adding more like chariot races and like what we know of like with the lions and like gladiators and stuff was a little bit later, but initially it was foot races and wrestling and boxing and things like that. So they would have these tracks where it was flat, you know, and then the side hills there would be full of people. They would be in the stadium. This is a stadium, you know, the seating isn't there anymore as much, but it would just be full of people, and then they would run hard. They would race as an Olympic runner to get a prize, which was this.
Yay! I get medals.
Yay! Okay, so like in our Olympics now, you have gold and silver and bronze and lots of like notoriety and Pepsi sponsorship and, you know, like all this stuff. No, the athletes, they ran for an olive wreath
that died.
That was made of already dead leaves, right? I mean, you had to pick them off the tree. So they're already like dying, and they would make these wreaths out of it. And it's like, yeah, I won, you know, this wreath. And that's what they would run for. But they would run for it, for the prize. And so that is what they would get. And this is called the Stephanos. It's called a victor's crown. So in the Bible, this is kind of geeky for Greek. Never mind. In the Bible, there's the diadem, which would be like a royal crown. That's what Christ is crowned with is the diadems, right? You know, crown him with many crowns. It's the diadem or the royal crown. And then there's the Stephanos, which is like a victor's crown. And that's what this is. When it says the Stephanos, this little olive wreathy thingy that's already dead, that's what it means. Isn't that sad?
I'll take it.
I think you're okay. You're a runner, though. I was like, nope, I will not do that. I will not run for that. So if you guys have your Bibles, turn to Hebrews chapter 12. We're going to be in Hebrews chapter 12 and 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I want to show you some of these verses that were on that video. So Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. Look at this. Let's kind of break this down a little bit and see if we can figure out what this race is. So it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. So one of the things that we can do when we're coming to the Word is ask questions, right? That's one of the tools, is to ask questions. So I was asking questions of this text. So what are we called to do? We are called to run the race, right? Run the race. How?
With endurance.
With endurance. You run with endurance. And which race are you running?
The one that is set before you.
That's right. You're such a Berean. We did not practice that. She totally nailed it. That's right. So you run the race that is set before you. That's right. So that phrase, the one set before you, that is what got me thinking about the race. Because I was like, oh yeah, the race set before you, thinking you as in collectively, like you believers, the race that's set before you, run it. That's not what it's saying. It's saying the race that's set before you. Or another way of saying that is the race that God chose for you to run. You run that race.
You run your own race.
You run your own race. That's right. With endurance. You run your own race with endurance. We do not select the race that we're running. We're just told to run it. So the Lord sets this course before us, and we are supposed to run this race with endurance. Now, I took this to visual because I'm a visual learner, and you guys are going to be so awed by my artistry, you don't even know. So our copy is right here, Linda. So we can look at that, and I'm going to show you guys a close-up of what we're looking at, okay? So check this out. Mic. Hold on a second. I got to fix the microphone. 1 second. Hey, look, another blooper. I know, another blooper. Just hold on a second. You're going to lose sound for a second, and that's okay. Because I got to fix something, so give me a second. I'll do it fast. Ready, go. Check, check, check. Ha! I think you can hear us now, yes? We'll wait for confirmation. It'll take 20 seconds. Ready, go.
Somebody comment that if they can hear.
Can they hear? Now? Check, check. I think they can. So, this is my drawing. Are they saying anything yet? It's probably still delayed. See? Isn't the delay weird? Yeah. So, oh, yes. Deborah said yes. Okay, we're going to go for it. Okay, so this is hey, Diane. Yes, I'm getting yeses. Okay, so this is my awesome drawing at the starting line. And then, see all the yeses are coming in?
Yeah.
See, my
phone is delayed.
So these are the little people. Now, this is what is interesting about the race, about Hebrews chapter 12, is that we all, just ignore that they can't see. They can't see.
Oh.
They just heard things falling down.
Jesus fell down.
Yeah. Oh, man. We're live, y'all. Now you know. Okay, so we all, when we accept Christ, go to the starting line, right? Because we're all going to run a race. But here's the thing. Some people's race could look like this, where there's up and downs, right? And it's kind of, it's, 71 years long, and then you finish. But somebody else's race could look more like this, where there's rolling hills and it's not as intense, but it's a little shorter, right? Or you could have a race that looks like mine, like this, where there's nothing consistent about it at all. There's hills, there's valleys, there's, rope ladders over treacherous cliffs, some detours, and then you're done. But it might be a little bit shorter, you see. Or you could have one like this that's super intense, but really short. You see. And so here's the thing that I was thinking about with our races is that the Lord, over his sovereignty, has assigned us a course, right? And every course has a different difficulty and a different duration, right? He is the one who numbers our days and sets our course. And when we get saved, actually, even before that, when we are knit in our mother's womb, he has numbered our days, right? So he knows the duration of our race, and he knows the difficulty level of our race. So what, he writes our story, right? He writes our story. And so in everybody's story, in an individual story, there could be different villains, different conflicts, different chapter heads. The story length could be different. The genre could be different, right? He writes our stories. And so, we are looking at our course and be like, well, my course doesn't look like her course.
I want her course.
I don't want her course.
I don't want her
course. That's right. And so, running the race. So, that's the thing about running the race, is that we can look over to somebody else's race and be envious of that race, or thankful about our own race, depending. But they're running the race set before them that the Lord has given them. And the race that we've been given is for our good and for his glory. So he's going to assign to us the race that's going to get to those two goals, that it's for our good, eternal good, right? That will wield us the most treasure in heaven, and for his glory, that we would shine his glory for others that are going to come up behind us. That's the course he's going to give us, right?
Yeah. And I'm just noticing what he keeps saying is, even in the verses that follow, in that about growing weary and faint-hearted. And I used to always think that if I'm not on the right path, I'm not. And it's almost like if you're weary and he's just telling us, that's more of a clue that you might be on his path.
Yes.
I'm just going.
Yeah.
Profound thought.
Yeah, and then later it says, therefore lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. So he keeps going on with this like gird up, runner. And so it's all about this running the race, this whole chapter. And in it is discipline from the Lord, which comes with these up and down trials, right? Some of them are discipline. Some of them are trials that are refined by fire. You have all this stuff, but he's like, keep running.
Well, and I was just thinking of the video, because as a runner, I mean, you're training all the time. And I'm looking at, and he's running in the rain. That's your least favorite thing to do. And yet you're going. That's the path that's there.
Yep.
And you're going. And you're running. You might step in a hole. You might trip over something. but you get up. And
Yeah.
You go. You just get up and go.
Yeah. So on that, it says that we are supposed to run the race with endurance, right? That's how we run the race. We don't run it grumbling or complaining or taking the elevator. You don't take the elevator. There's no elevators. I've checked several times. Like, can I just skip this part? There's no elevators. So we're supposed to run with endurance, which that word endurance here in this verse, which I assume is many verses, is steadfast or tenacious or being faithful. Run as someone undeterred from his purpose. That's what endurance is. I mean, you just have your face set like flint towards the finish line, which is what we're going to talk about next. So I have a question for you because I am not an athlete. I don't run. Okay. I don't like to run. I hate running. So you have trained for marathons or sprints or events or whatever it is that you do. What kind of conditioning goes into that? Like if you're getting ready for a marathon, because our race, we don't know how long our race is, but we are in it for the long haul. It's not a sprint for sure. I mean, nobody's...
I'm a sprinter. I'm a sprinter, but I try to do...
Okay,
marathons.
I brought the wrong guess. I'm just kidding.
No.
Yeah, but your husband doesn't.
Even for no matter what the length, you train for months. You strength train, you weight train, you work on your speed work. And marathoning. He trains like for 18 weeks. When he signs up for one, and you slowly build up your mileage, work on your speed, and What about off training? Like on days where you're not actually training, I'm sure diet goes into it. The more you
sleeping,
yeah. And it talks about like lightening your load.
Right.
I mean,
you
don't wear clothes that are gonna wear you down. You don't
run with
even
the backpack.
Carrying extra weight. 5 pounds on me is the difference between a first place and a also ran. Kind of ran.
Participation at reward.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it says, lay aside every weight, sin, which clings so closely. So I'm thinking I always think of Pilgrim's Progress when I think of this, like that weight, like the burden that he was carrying, and Paul's like, shrug it off, put off that old man, you don't have to carry it around, and kind of like run light.
Yeah.
That's run light.
And a marathon, because Rick they have aid stations, water stations, and yet some people will carry their own water on those little packs and stuff.
Right.
And he's like one, I'm not going to run 26 miles with
that's
5
heavy.
pounds of water on me.
Yeah.
It's an extra weight, but I don't know.
Right.
You have to trust that the Lord's going to give you your aid, I guess.
Right. So 1 Corinthians, go over there. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I want to show you these other verses about training and these kind of Paul's pulling on an athlete. What's funny about Paul is historians say that he was this short, fat, bald guy with a weird nose, and I'm thinking, how come he knows so much about the Olympics? Anyway, that's totally not what we're talking about right now. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24, he says, do you not know that in a race, all the runners run? That makes sense, right? I mean, if you're in the race, you're obviously there to run. That's the point. And what he's saying is, you are in a race. You are by default because you were a believer, right? So if you're a runner, then all the runners run, but only one receives the prize. Now he's drawing again on the Olympics, how they would run for that dead leaf crown thing, right? He's like, everybody runs, but only one guy gets the dead branch halo. Lucky him. Only one guy. So run that you may obtain it. What's he saying? If there's a winner, you might as well be that one. Run that you're going to obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. So I have these notes in my margin because in the Greek, this does no justice to what Paul is talking about. So this actual word, exercise self-control is an Olympic word that they would have used back then. So it means to enter a contest as an Olympic, for the Olympics, someone that trains well. And then it says that they trained in that gladiator like training for 10 months for one race, for one halo of dead branches. And so he's saying every athlete, these Olympic athletes, exercise self-control in all things. That means on and off the training, right? Mm-hmm. Your diet, your sleep, how much you drink, like your habits, staying hydrated. All of that is even off the training field. You're talking about 24/7. That race is always in your mind, and you adapt your life to that race. And that's what Paul's talking about, how we are supposed to adapt our life to running this race, which means you're putting off the old self, which means you're pursuing after righteousness, right? Which means you're keeping in step with the Spirit. All these other verses about, the godly living. He's saying, even if you're not actually on the training ground, everything you do plays into that. Right? And you have one race and you're in it and there's a finish line. You got one shot. So run. Right? Run, train, adapt your life around, if you're not on your way to being in a marathon, you might lax on stuff. But if in 10 months you're running that race, your whole life, right? I would imagine, if you want to do well, you're not going to do well a week before if you start training. You got to train way back when and on and off the field. And that's what Paul's talking about. You're in a race, run it. You're in the race. That's not a choice. You're in the race. You're doing it.
There's a race before the race, if that makes sense.
Right. There's the training before. Yeah, exactly. And so Paul's like, run that and look, they do it, talking back about this Olympic athlete he's talking about in the original language. They do it to receive a perishable wreath. The dead branch thing, that's what he's talking about, a perishable wreath. But we, an imperishable one, or we have a reward that's eternal. And Paul talks about how we have a treasure set in heaven that's guarded, that's imperishable and undefiled, that can never be touched by human hands. And these crowns that we can earn by the way that we honor the Lord here on earth, that translates somehow into our eternal reward. And he's like, we're running for that. We're running for the kingdom. This is a blip on the map. What we do now echoes forever in eternity. So run hard. This is your only chance to run. This is it. So run. I know. And I'm thinking, I think I've slacked a few miles for sure. It's just this sobering thing to keep going in your mind. Like, I'm running a race. So for today, what should I be doing that's advancing me down that race as a good athlete, for the goal of for my good and for his glory? What am I doing today? Am I being a glutton? Am I taking in too much junk food, which could be anything, whatever that is to you? Am I just hanging out? Am I dehydrated? Have I not been in the living word? Is my diet the manna, meat, and milk of the word? Or am I feasting on empty calories and things that'll hurt? And not to be legalistic about it, it's just a truth. We're running a race. I mean, you can call it judgy and all this other crap that people talk about, but the truth is, You're in a race. You don't know when it ends. And at the end of it is eternity, and it matters a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Pretty sobering.
I know. Sobering, exciting, definitely exhortative, this kind of. So I was thinking about this and going, man, I have wasted so much time. Like,
here, I'm in the next verse.
Hold on. I want to read. Patty says mental, physical, heart preparation for the race. Yes. Mental,
so
physical,
that
heart.
I do not run aimlessly and
Yes.
I do not box as one beating the air.
That's right. Right. I don't run aimlessly. And I was thinking about this too, is that because the Lord has set the course before us, we don't run around all willy-nilly. We're not running to nothing or we're not just running somehow to somewhere. We are running the course that he set before us, and we are running to him, looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, right?
Yeah.
Who ran the race before us, for the joy set before us, endured the cross. That was his race. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because he finished the race, we have a race. It's because of his grace that we even have a race at all.
Yeah.
And that's what Paul's saying. So you're running towards Jesus.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not running aimlessly. You've got a course and you've got a destination.
And he's the finish line.
And he's the finish
the
line.
Finish line.
Yes, he's the finish line. Exactly. So, oh my gosh. Now, here's the thing about running is, I was thinking like, well, my race is toast. Like, I have toasted my race so many times, you guys. And the Lord's like, get up.
Been there.
Here's the thing about racing is that it doesn't have to be pretty. You look at, in fact, in Hebrews chapter 12, it says, therefore, since we have a great cloud of witnesses, right? Run the race with endurance. And it says, therefore, which means you attach it to what's ahead, which is the whole of faith. He just spent a whole chapter telling us about who this cloud of witnesses is, people who have gone before us and finished their race. And you look through the list and be like, they did not have a pretty race. Nobody. Their race was messy.
Well, even I look at Paul and he's like, lest after preaching to others, I should be disqualified. Because you can get disqualified from a race. And that's just scary.
Right.
Or you can falter at the finish line. There's so many things that can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why you have to lean on Jesus, because he's the only one who can get you through it.
Right.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. So these cloud of witnesses, I was thinking, we have so much example that have gone ahead of us that were messy. And some of them did look like they got disqualified a time or two, at least.
Or there's way highs and way lows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like their course was like this, and some of it was super self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that's the way. I think you jumped off the cliff there. Lord's like, trails over there, and we're like, whoo, and then we have to reset.
This one doesn't have so many hills. I'll take this one.
Yeah, or we get distracted by the wide path.
Oh.
Right?
Or are we on the path that God put us on, or did we take our own detour?
A detour. That's right.
Yeah.
To our own destruction, and then have to backtrack.
Yeah, and do it again.
And do it again, and lose some ground. Lose some ground,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, there's all these race analogies that you can back up with scripture that if you really think about it, man, they're talking about this. They're talking about running the race well, And so I was thinking, my race doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be flawless. It is required of stewards that they be found faithful. Not perfect, not flawless, just faithful. He's like, just keep going. Just keep running. That's what you need to do. So I was thinking about that, we can have failures, we can have slip-ups, we can fall down, we can be detoured, we can be airlifted off the cliff, whatever. It doesn't have to be pretty. We just have to finish. And this is what's cool about the race, is that we run the course that is set before us, but we are the only runner on that course. We're not competing against each other for the prize. It's not like if I outrun you in the foot race, I get the prize and you don't. It's not that. It's that there's one winner, and since you're the only one on the course, if you cross the finish line, you win. You get the crown. That's what's really awesome about it, is that there's no competitiveness in the body ever. If there is, it's wrong. There's something wrong. So like, they may have a course and you have a course, but if you both cross the finish line, you both get the crown because you're on an individual course. So all we have to do is get there, get to the end. It doesn't have to be pretty. We can be scraped up. We can be like limping or dragging ourselves, bleeding, have one arm and half a foot left and that's it. It doesn't have to be pretty. We just have to get over the line. And you win. You get the crown. You just have to finish because you're the only one on the course. It's you and Jesus. That's it. Yeah. Just you and Jesus. Which is actually really cool because I don't want to compete against you. Yeah. You'll win. Then you put in all this effort and it's like, oh, I didn't make it. Like, it's not like that. It's not, we're all on our own course. So we all get the prize.
I like that.
Yeah. You just have to finish. It's required.
You have to participate.
Yes.
You have to buy.
Yeah. We must know who we run with, who we run for, and who we run to. Right? Which is all Jesus. Jesus comes along beside us. He lifts us up when we stumble. He wipes us off. He, sets us right. He lifts us off the ground. He runs with us. He encourages us. He carries us, right? He was the example set before us. So he runs with us. We run for him and we're running to him. He is at the finish line cheering us. And when we cross, he says, well done, good and faithful servant, not perfect servant, flawless servant, unbruised, unbloodied servant, just faithful servant. And if we finish our race, we win because Jesus is at the end of the race. And all this other stuff he gives us. But Jesus is at the end. And he's like, yeah, well done, good and faithful servant. I mean, that's why it says that we need to run the race with endurance, looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. That's where if our gaze looks anywhere else, we're going to be distracted and disheartened, right? And discouraged. If you look to Jesus, even if we fall down.
And he knows us.
Yes.
He knows us.
Yes.
And he knows what we can do. He knows what we can do within ourselves, and he knows what we can do beyond ourselves.
That's right.
In him.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I love that.
The race. We're in it.
It's not easy.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
No, it's not easy at all. And who knows when the end is. I'm hoping for the rapture and we all have the same finish line. That's what I'm hoping for. But if not, I mean, the Lord has set our course and there is an end and he's at the end. That is amazing. I mean, doesn't that make you want to run even though it's hard?
Yeah.
Train well, be conditioned, stay hydrated in the word, stay fed with the word. Yeah, be strong in the Lord. It gives you some stickiness, that stick-to-itness to keep going.
It gives me mind to keep my mind on, like we talked about watching other people's races, keep your mind on your own race. Not that you're not interested in other people's, but as far as wishing your race was more like theirs, but just sometimes I think we're so worried about everybody else, we don't enjoy our journey.
Right.
I mean, it's a journey. It's not just a race, it's a journey, and there's a finish line, but there's also the race itself that sometimes we neglect where we are in the moment, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. Oh man, there's nothing that steals joy faster than envy and jealousy. Doesn't that just snatch the ember of your joy? Like you thought you were content and then you look around. Like that's a killer. That's a killer.
What about me?
I know. What about me? What about me? Yeah. So I love this image that you run your own race to Jesus. That's what you're doing. You're not competing with somebody else. No one can take your crown, like you just get across the line. Just get there. It doesn't have to be pretty or perfect. Just get across the line. Run.
And there's like the cloud of witnesses. I love the image of them cheering. Yeah. Every time you fall down, it's like, hey, been there, done that. Yep. You can do it. Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And they're, knowing that, for us, knowing that others have done it, they've done just as hard of a course and finished and are in glory. Yeah. That's encouraging. Because, the Hall of Faith is kind of a hall of idiots. A lot of them. If you look at the stories, they're like, your race was not pretty. And that's the point, though. That's the point. Is that all you have to do is finish the race and you're a winner. Yeah. Run. Don't give up ever give up, right?
Never, ever.
Never, ever. As long as you have breath, you're still running. You're still relevant. The Lord still has more story to write, no matter how old you are, no matter how many times you've messed up, failed. If you're still breathing, there's still more pages in your story. So we got to run. Right? To the end.
I see hope coming on the horizon. There's no need for hiding, 'cause I belong. Here I am in the presence of the great I am, near to your heart, oh God. I have found my joy. I've searched so long in darkness, I've walked so far, fighting but I'm